Good morning, good morning, good morning, beautiful people. Do I have a treat for you this morning? I am joined today by the beautiful Gabi Gama, who is a connection and purpose coach. And what a coach she is. And today I'll let her introduce herself in a minute, but today we are going to be delving a little bit into emotions. When somebody says that word, you automatically think, big and scary, but it's not big and scary, and Gabby's going to tell us why. So, Gabby, come and introduce yourself.
Hi, Helen. It's so lovely to be here. Thank you for that introduction. Yeah, I've been so passionate about emotions, I would say, for the last 5 years. And it all started, I suppose, with me trying to work out what my new chapter was. I'd finished a long stint in corporate and tourism, and I was suddenly left without any plans. And I thought, well, okay, I need a new idea. And I just thought, I'm open to anything. All I knew is that I wasn't going back to what I was doing before. And yeah, one of my paths was then it became coaching. I started training, and the first training that I did was completely emotions focused. And I didn't actually quite know that when I signed up for the coaching course, but it totally drew me in. And one of the things I was introduced to there was that our emotions drive absolutely everything that we do in life. And I didn't realize quite how true that was. So it's literally the emotions are the basis of every decision that we take. It's the basis of our motivation, the basis of all of our relationships, our decisions, everything that connects us to others and connects us to life, that gives us meaning. And also all of our memories are connected via emotions. And I found this really fascinating. And the other thing that they showed us was that all of our emotions are messengers. So on one hand, they're like action signals. So they tell us what action to take. So imagine if you see something fearful, this is the classic, you see something that can hurt me, I have to either run or fight against it. Those are classic ones, but it goes a bit deeper than that, because our lives are much more than just survival. Yeah. And so because we are human beings, we have imaginations, we can project ourselves into the future, we go into the past. So all these stories that we start creating are then related, our emotions are attached to that. So those emotions start telling us what feels good and what feels bad. And out of that then come all these judgments. And so we start creating these whole chains of emotions. So we've got emotions that are giving us a simple signal, and we start judging them because we are maybe in a position when we're small that somebody has reacted badly to our emotion. And so when we start learning that emotion perhaps isn't the right thing to do. So if we're angry, we get told that we can't be angry, especially if we're women. This happens a lot. If we cry too much, that was the thing that happened a lot in my house. It wasn't allowed to cry because my mum found it very hard to deal with pain. So then anything that was sadness and crying then became a problem. And so you shut that down as times goes. And so basically we start creating all these chains of reactions. Okay, can't feel pain, so I'll feel this, and I'll start showing myself as this. And it was just so interesting through that coaching course that we saw that those emotions that we start shutting down really early on, just because we want to be loved by our parents or accepted by the people around us, then start getting stuck in our system. And all they were doing was just literally signaling something that just needed to be expressed. But it just gets held in our body more and more. And I think this is the thing, that because we start shutting down or get judged or told that we're too expressive or whatever, we have these coping mechanisms, and they then become who our personality is. That becomes our personality. And I think that's so hard when we get older and we come across all these things. We might have triggers that remind us of things that have happened. Then we suddenly start finding that those emotions are there, or they're repressed or whatever, and we can't express them. It gets really confusing. And we judge in general. And I think what I'm here on a mission to do, is part of what I want to do as a connection and purpose coach, is to reconnect us to these emotions that have kind of been pushed away, and sort of remember what was there that wanted to be expressed, and also use them to sort of find out what we're here to do. because our emotions, both the negative ones and the positive ones, are these kind of messengers. They're not just telling us to take certain actions because of our survival, but they are actually something deeper than that. And that is really what I'm here to do, is that everybody has emotions. We all have what we call negative emotions, that I would prefer to call maybe uncomfortable emotions, or is the better word. And that they actually are there all the time to sort of bring us back to who we really are. They're signals to say, hello, this is not true about you. There's something else that's wanting to be expressed. So not be scared of them anymore.
Kind of, your emotions are kind of, or your more sort of challenging emotions are kind of keepers of your comfort zone, aren't they? So they'll keep you where it's safe. So like you were saying before about, it can be really difficult to sit with an emotion that comes up that is a trigger from the past, or a trigger of a negative experience that you've had. But emotions also, I think, signify that we're making change, that we could be on the verge of doing something big as well. And I kind of think about that in terms of, if you drive, when you went for your driving test, were you skipping into the test centre going, yay, it's driving test day? It's like, no, you were terrified, stomachs, butterflies in your tummy, clammy hands, all of those things. And that emotion that's brought up, nervousness, anticipation, anxiety, all of that comes up, all of that is signifying potential change, isn't it? So it's signifying you stepping out of your comfort zone into something that potentially is fabulous on the other side. But you don't feel excitement at the time. You feel nervous and worried and sick at the time, and then the excitement comes later. So actually, totally what you're saying there about needing to then sit with the revisit almost the more challenging emotions can be key to being able to move forward, can't it? You've got to do that in order to move through life in a more productive way. If you've been unfortunate enough to suffer, say, trauma in your past.
Absolutely. And I think the word trauma, although it does get overused, I think we shouldn't think that none of us, that if we haven't had something big or very difficult happen in our lives, that we don't have trauma, but maybe trauma with a small t. So when we have trauma, it can be literally something like, the fact that they say that even being born is a trauma. So we're in this physical body, we suddenly come into the world and everything is just so much. And I think this whole thing of the two words that get used a lot that affect so many people is distress and overwhelm. So trauma is basically overwhelm and being alone. And so I think all of us will have some kind of relationship with moments that our parents weren't able to comfort us because they were either physically not there, or they weren't emotionally there, able to do that for us, because they've also gone through things in their lives. We've all got this. So at that moment that we felt overwhelmed and alone is what creates a trauma. And it can be a small trauma, but it can still be something that then creates a belief, because we decide, okay, I'll give you an example. One of my big trauma probably in my life was when I was 1.5 and I had to be hospitalized. So wonderfully caring mother, very concerned all the time, had to leave me in the hospital. It was in the 1970s. Parents weren't allowed to stay the night. And so I got left in this hospital, and they were only allowed to come for, visiting hours. 1.5 with pneumonia. And when my mum had to leave, I was so upset that they had to tie me down to the bed. And I still have an image of that, even though they say you can't have memories before the age of 3. I don't believe that's true. In fact, they're saying that's not true anymore. But I have an image of her leaving and of her saying, please don't cry, because then I'm going to cry too. And so what do you do at that age? You just literally shut down. What can you do? In that moment, I took a decision. I have to do this on my own. And I just stayed, and I just literally went to sleep because the exhaustion and it was literally shut down. You can't do anything else. So you have to comfort yourself. It's too much, the whole emotion, and that's it. That's just the kind of thing that can happen in your life. Nobody's done anything terrible to you, except for that was at the moment that what had to be done. And so that kind of trauma, or just simply the fact that you might have not been fed at the moment that you were really hungry, or not comforted when you fell down, down the stairs, or, fell over. It could be anything. It could be like an interaction with a friend that I had. I remember that I wanted to prepare, change something in a puzzle that she was doing, and I wanted to show how it was done, and she totally, pushed me out of the way, and she was angry with my interference, and that was just traumatic for me,
Yeah, I see this a lot in my area of work, where you might have a child, say, who has PDA type symptoms, who really, really, really struggles to get into school, and like the actual event of being taken into school in the morning is a traumatic event, and then therefore due to the overwhelm of that situation, that child then has basically it's not a choice, is it? It's that having to your system close itself down for a little while you regulate and while you decompress from the situation. I see that a lot. And there's also, do you find then with people that there's compensatory behaviours
absolutely.
from not them being able to deal with emotions that they're feeling in the moment? In my work, I see a lot in physical manifestation, like licking lips, getting really sore lips, or chewing skin around fingernails, or even down to biting clothing and things like that. That is an physical emotional response, isn't it, to not being able to cope? And I think then, as that I see a lot of that obviously in children, but then as you grow up and you get older and there's different ways to cope, this is then where maybe um, overuse of alcohol and drug addiction, things like that come in, because we have to find a way to deal with those traumatic events that aren't necessarily emotionally healthy. Would that be?
Yeah, no, it sounds absolutely right. And we just find whatever coping mechanism there is. But the thing is that it's really important to understand is that the energy of that emotion. So me wanting to run to my mum, or, having somebody to comfort me and feel safe, and all those things, that energy that's been stuck because we've been in a moment of overwhelming feelings inside of our bodies, because that's literally what it is. The fact that that has not been able to run its course, it gets stuck in the body. So then that nervous energy then shows itself in lots of different ways. And we can get to a point where we repress it so much that it becomes things like depression, because depression is literally a complete disconnect from emotion. It's like depressing the emotions. Or you can get to a point of anxiety where you're constantly fearful of feeling, because not understanding what it is that I can possibly feel is so uncomfortable, that we're just literally trying to control our environment all the time to try and not feel, because it's a disconnect from our bodies. And I think even though I'm not a therapist that can work with the bodies, I've done so much studying on this. I really understand the importance of how the nervous system interacts with our emotions. And literally that healing is really important, that we reconnect to our bodies, because I think people think that emotions are all mental, that it's all in our heads, or that it's just something that's automatic. But there's all these parts to emotions. So there's the physical part, there's the mental part, which is affected by our beliefs. So if we think, we can look, two of us can look at the same event and think something very different about it because of what we've experienced in our lives. And so, that's why it also happens that maybe in the same family, one sister or brother, has witnessed the same event and has had a very different reaction to it than the other ones. We all have different memories of things. We remember different bits of things. So one person can watch a film and remember one bit and another bit, and it's because that's what meant something to us. We link into certain things. We cannot take in everything that's coming at us in any moment. Even you and me talking now, we're literally filtering the bits that are important to us. So we might not hear even every word, We might not see, we're not seeing everything in our periphery. We're literally concentrating on something that we're focusing on in that moment. And that focus is what determines then our reactions as well. So we focus on what's important to us, which is based on what we've also learned in the past. Where's the danger? Where's the bit I like? What's the bit I like? Then the story we tell ourselves about it. And then we have this basically is this physical feeling that's in our body that's all linked to it. And so it's like a triangle. And that meaning-making triangle is what creates the emotion.
That's so fascinating.
And so we have this emotion, sorry.
I was going to say the reaction part of that really interests me, because it's then the reaction to the emotional response of whatever it is that has happened then determines what happens next, doesn't it? So it is just like a huge cycle of either good, because it can be amazing, can't it, or bad if it's a traumatic event.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got, let's look at a positive emotional reaction, for instance, like when someone proposes to someone.
Oh yeah.
So you'll get that a person who is then asking another person, or dedicating the rest of their life, say, to another person, the emotion that then draws up within from being asked that question, hopefully if the answer is going to be yes, by the way, then brings tears, it brings joy, it brings that overwhelming happiness. It brings, again though, that comes along with it, some people can't speak. It brings all of those things along with it as well, doesn't it? So the happy reactions and the not so happy reactions have, like, they both have massive amounts of strength in them, don't they, as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's emotions are fascinating. So like you say, I mean, you can have this, it basically emotions, and this is another bit we can look at, but it's all to do with our expectations. Because one of the books that I did in all these years of studying on emotions is Lisa Feldman Barrett's book. Is called I've just gone blank on the name of the book, but it basically she has this amazing theory, and it's based on lots of neuroscience, that we're prediction mechanisms. We're literally just predicting all the time. Our brain is a prediction mechanism, actually, and it's constantly predicting what's going to happen next, and that's based on our previous history. And because of that prediction mechanism and the fact that we have to filter, because we have a body budget that tells us that we can't use up too much energy, so we create these filters, which are called our beliefs, to say this is good and this is bad and this is important to me and this is not. And so the combination of those two is what creates our emotions. And this constant prediction and what we expect, it's either something when we're happy, it's just literally because our expectations are being met. It's like reality is equal to our expectations. And when we're sad, it's when, okay, I've lost something. It hasn't met my expectations. I wanted something else. And so it's literally as simple as that. It's all about expectations.
Absolutely. That's how emotions are made.
Yes, that's the word. That's the one. Yeah, I've got it. It's literally a book I have all the time, and I just go blank. But yeah, it's amazing. It's a very interesting book.
I'm just going to put that in the chat for anyone who wants to take a note of that at some point. So in your work with people around emotions, then what's the first thing that if you were meeting someone, you've made a connection, you've had your initial chat with someone, where do you start, Gabi?
Yeah, no, this is always the thing with coaches. Obviously, I'm always looking for, my classic client is the one that feels stuck, just like I was. For 5 years, I might have been all interested in emotions, but I still didn't know what I was doing with myself. So what kind of client do I want? And what am I really here to do? And I kept being drawn to purpose, because that's what I was looking for, a new purpose. I think so many of us are looking for meaning and purpose in life, and we get stuck and we start being confused, and it's all these people that are overthinking and doubting themselves. It's imposter syndrome that we hear about all the time. I think so many of us have it. I'm just not good enough, or I haven't got that experience. How can I possibly now go into something new? I don't have the qualifications, or I'm just not good enough at speaking, or I just don't seem to know how to ask the right questions, all these kind of things. Or, my thing with coaching was that I felt so much that I was trying to fix people. And I knew that was not what it was about. And that was my big battle, constantly trying to make it all right. I wanted to help people so badly, and it actually made me interfere. And that's not what it's about. And it was just such a journey of learning to just listen. And the listening is to the emotions. People start sharing things with you, and when something, you can see them light up when they're talking about something that they love. So that's where I go. What is it that you truly desire? And sometimes they don't know yet. So then, okay, what is it that you really don't want? And that's when you get so much richness, because that's where the emotions come out. I say, and why don't you want that? And that, that's where the emotional language comes, well, because that would make me feel frustrated, or that would make me feel sad. And so because I now have and every emotion has a specific message. And that's something that I can share with people if they want to download. I mean, there's so many different emotions, and each one has a specific message which can tell you this is what it's trying to tell me. And so that's how I work with it. So I literally I think when we start asking people about their desires, and I think this is why coaching is so different from therapy or from any kind of other work that works with with the problem. We like to look at, how can we resolve it? What's really trying to be expressed? What is it that this person really wants? And I think by looking at what they really want, or the fact that they don't really know what they want, because we don't talk about that enough, I think we can then start looking at what's blocking them. And yeah, that's where we get all the emotional language.
This is so good for this. If you're stuck in a career path, if you don't know where you're going with your career, it sounds like it's an amazing thing for that, in that so many people end up stuck in a job they don't really like, don't they? Stuck in a position that you need to earn the money to be able to pay your bills and all those things, but you end up stuck in a job that gives you no satisfaction. So this is great at being able to, right, okay, so what do you really want, and building a path to a career that's wonderful and fulfilling and all of those things. That's great for someone who's stuck in their career, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think it's not just career, it's our relationships, it's everything. Because I think when there's an emptiness, because there's a disconnect inside of you, because you've repressed some kind of emotions, then you forget kind of who you are. And we adapt to the people that are expecting things from us, and they are not our own expectations. So we're trying to meet other people's expectations all the time. And so these issues, especially in corporate careers, but it doesn't matter, whatever group you belong to, whether it's a family or a friend group or just society in general, there are just expectations for how we're supposed to act and do things. And schools, I mean, don't even go there. We all know, how many people can fit great into an educational system, and others that have real issues with it. And I've seen it with my own children. I've seen that with my nephew, who's autistic. He just cannot go to a normal school, in the sense, or here in Spain where I live, the Spanish system is horrific. And it's just all memorizing. Now, this is not everybody's cup of tea. And, you can see these kids just having this real disconnect. So where is the self-expression? And this is where the emotions come in, because we haven't been allowed to listen to them in the past. And so now I like to invite them back in. So, okay, what sets you alive? What gives you joy? What gives you...
Oh, Gabi's causing chaos.
Exactly. And I'd love this. I think the whole emotions thing, if it could be brought into education, that would just change everything.
Yeah.
Because, it's stopping judging the ones that we think are negative, because we can all see the effects of anger or hate or anything like that. But what they're actually trying to tell us is something very different. It's just the way we respond. And that is where we don't get taught to have that moment of pausing. We can choose how to respond. Mm-hmm. So there is this gap between feeling something, because we have something in our environment happen, and how we're going to respond to it. And because we think it's automatic, because it has become automatic, we think it just will just happen. We just can't help it. It's just, and And I think for most of us, it is like that. But I think if we could teach everybody that there's a moment that you can just stop and feel and not be scared of that feeling, even though it feels really bad. I mean, we feel, how bad do we feel with envy? Because envy is one of those words, we say the word jealous, but actually when we want something that somebody else has, it's called envy. And envy, well, I was super envious all the time. And I felt terrible about being envious. And it's like, you know, if you take it to a really bad extreme, envy actually makes you want to destroy what the other person has. And you want to take it away from them somehow. You just don't want them to have that pleasure. But all it's telling you is that whatever it is that they have, it's your true desire and you think you can't have it. And so all you have to do is like, why do you think you can't have it? What is it that you can do to try and get to it? So when you start realizing that envy is only telling you that, it just does, it stops you from judging it. It's like, actually, something inside of me is telling me this is important. And
that's one of the things that, if anyone's heard of Gabby Bernstein, that's one of the things that she covers. If there's somebody out there if you see somebody out there who has got what you want, look at them as an inspiration to get it rather than be envious of them having it and not you. They are, for want of better words, paving the way for you to get it. So there's someone who has what you want, therefore that means it's doable and it's achievable, and look at them as inspiring your path rather than being envious of them having it and not. Like, it's so true. It can change the direction of your life entirely, can't it?
Absolutely. And I think this is it. So once I started realizing that the desires that are inside of us exist because it's possible. We don't desire things that we don't want, really. You know, I can watch somebody and see that they're an amazing singer, for example, and I can just admire that without feeling any envy. I just think, oh, wonderful, you know. And but it's not something that I desperately want. I don't get jealous of people that are really famous, for example. That's not something that I want for myself. But it's the things that we really do see. That's like, oh my God, I used to get it when people were traveling all the time. It's like, oh, that's something I just love, you know. And I would get jealous. Oh, you can travel and I'm stuck in this job, or whatever it might be, you know. And it was, or I don't have the money, the typical things. And I just suddenly thought, wow, yeah, it's amazing. When we desire something, it's because it is really inside of us and for us to do. It's an invitation to to remember that. So,
gosh, it's so fascinating. We could literally talk for hours about this. It really is that fascinating. If people want to find out a bit more about, I've popped up your Instagram, your Facebook on the screen there for people to be able to follow you. If people are interested in finding out a bit more about emotions, what can they get from you that's going to help them to do that? Do you have like something that they can ask you for, a download or something like that?
Yeah, I've just recently created an emotions decoder. It has 18 negative emotions, which will what people think of as negative emotions, the difficult emotions, and literally be able to give you the flip side of them and what they're really trying to tell you. So a little bit like I explained about envy, and some questions that you can ask yourself so you can kind of work out what it is for you. And so yeah, that's basically available. If you DM me, I'm also going to drop the link in anywhere where you've broadcasted this. I'll put it in the comments so that you can download it. So you just pop in your email, and then and anybody that's on my list will also be in future contacted for any kind of emotions courses that I'm creating, because that's one of the projects I have with somebody else. I'm busy with creating an emotions course, just so people can start getting a real idea of how exciting emotions really are.
That's amazing. So fascinating. And ways in which you can enhance your life further or help to repair. So this is really, really good. So for anyone out there who is watching who wants to find out a bit more, do go and follow Gabi and see what she has to offer, because it's clearly a passionate subject for you, Gabi. And I think when you work with someone to do something, that is absolutely essential, is that person who is helping you to be as passionate as you are. So I can't believe that's been half an hour.
I know, it's flown by, hasn't it, Helen?
easy. If anyone's got any questions for Gabi, obviously you can contact Gabi directly, or if I get any questions, I will pass them on to Gabi. Absolutely.
Thank you, Helen,
and just thank you so much for joining me, Gabi. It's been really fascinating. Just dipping the toe into the pool of emotions. There's so far you can go with that, and I just appreciate you taking your time out to come and spend it with us today.
It's been a complete pleasure, Helen. Thank you so much for holding this space and having all the interest. I think it's a passion. I think it's a subject that we could all get passionate about.
Absolutely that. Well, have a good day, everybody, and we will be back with the next instalment very soon. Take care all.
Thank you, Helen.